We're taking stock inside a flight simulator at Comair's head office in Kempton Park in Johannesburg. Erik Venter is the chief executive of Comair. You've taken on a lot of debt in recent years. I think your debt to equity ratio is sitting at 86%,
yes,
which surely is elevated relative to where you would like it.
It's a short-term spike as we've done this quite rapid fleet renewal strategy. It comes off again quite significantly and quite quickly because we're actually repaying all the debt on a straight line capital basis, not a typical sort of loan amortization basis. So the capital repayment is quite aggressive as well. But it is, the alternative is to lease aircraft, and then what you're simply doing is disguising the fact that you've got a massive lease obligation that you're not showing on your balance sheet.
But aren't accounting rules changing, which is quite scary for those, and I think SAA leases a lot of its aircraft,
yes,
where if you suddenly have to account up front for the leases, that puts a liability on your balance sheet that is quite significant.
It will make a very big change to those airlines that have not owned their fleet in the past. So all of those lease obligations, for us, as from July 2020, will come onto our balance sheet. Same with all other airlines, same with property leasing companies, anyone who's operating a long-term lease. The asset and the liability comes onto your balance sheet now. So it will create some very interesting balance sheets for those airlines that have historically not had aircraft on the balance sheet. And it will also reveal the fact that our debt equity ratio isn't that high relative to the industry normally, because the obligations in terms of leases are typically even more onerous than the obligations on owning an aircraft. You can sell an aircraft, whereas it's very hard to get out of a lease, for example.
Yes, I mean, so when we look at the liability that SAA has to Comair, you recently won a very high-profile court case. You've argued for a decade that SAA cheated and basically discounted flights via the channel of the
travel agents.
Is an interesting 1.1 billion rand guaranteed income until I think 2022, 2023. Because you two went to the Competition Commission and said these guys basically used the travel agency businesses to discount flights, gave them an unfair advantage over you more than a decade ago. The courts have finally found in your favor. There's nowhere else for SAA to turn. And you've almost given them a lay-by. You've said to them, give us money every month and we'll settle over 5 years.
Well, I think the first thing just to keep in mind is they weren't actually discounting flights. The consumer got no benefit. The consumer paid more for their flights than what they would have paid for in a competitive environment. So they basically just paid the travel agents to not sell competitor airlines. So ultimately the consumer paid more than what they would have paid. But yes, I think the biggest issue that SAA has been facing now recently obviously has been cash flow. So in terms of coming to a settlement, that was the fundamental requirement in the deal, was to find a way to make it possible for SAA to spread the payments over a longer term.
And again, it's you and I are paying bizarrely for that cash flow into Comair. In the bigger scheme of things, R1 billion in the airline trade, is it much money?
It's serious money.
It's an aeroplane.
It's about 3 years worth of our profits, but it's one and a bit aeroplanes. So yes, but I think the benefit to look at is in our hands, we're obviously going to reinvest a lot of that back into businesses that we're trying to grow in South Africa. So a lot of that will be reinvested into maintenance businesses, into training businesses, etc., which will hopefully again grow the economy, grow employment, grow the industry potential. Whereas R1 billion sitting in SAA, well, we're not quite sure what would happen to it.
You touched on it earlier on in the program about how SAA maintenance has let you down really badly. And I mean, your on-time schedules have been detrimentally affected. They give preference to their own aircraft. You then get pushed to the bottom of the queue, and in some cases, 65% on-time schedules from some of South Africa's airports.
I'm not sure anyone's getting preferential treatment, to be honest.
I think just inadequate?
Everybody is getting beaten up similarly.
Why can't they do the job?
I think the culture has taken such a hit in SAA, mainly as a result of the previous chairperson in SAA, that a lot of people just walked away. A lot of skilled people just walked away, took early retirement, went to other industries, etc.
But in an industry, a global aviation industry, where this is a business opportunity, we have taken skills, a bit like Eskom, and said, off you go, we don't need you anymore.
Yeah, basically.
And
we don't have the pipeline anymore. So aviation technical skills used to be developed through Transnet, through Denel, through the Air Force, and all of those are not producing technicians anymore.
And so, I mean, fools go where angels fear to tread. You are now setting up your own technical business. I mean, Lufthansa is running it, but you're going to be using it, and you're going to be bringing skills into that.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's such a problem, I mean, surely you're on a hiding to nothing there too, or not?
No, I think it's a matter of how one runs the business. So if the if the culture had been maintained and the positivity had been maintained in SAA Technical, those people would have stayed there and it wouldn't have been a problem. And the people who left didn't leave willingly. They almost left with very heavy hearts, because that is where they'd grown up, that's where they'd spent their lives. And
is there an opportunity for an independent maintenance business in South Africa?
Absolutely.
That SAA could be a client of?
Very possible.
I mean,
that's very possibly where we'll end up going. Yes.
Is that part of the turnaround of SAA potentially?
It could be that they get to the point where it's not feasible for them to try and keep running their own maintenance. Look, they're already sending a lot of aircraft overseas for maintenance now, SAA themselves, as are we doing now.
And so what happens to this industry over the next decade? It seems impossible, as much as Pravin Gordhan, who really doesn't want to bring in strategic equity partners, wants to drive the developmental state, the state at the center of the economy, the state with this national carrier, this flag carrier. To many in government, it's an absolute must.
Yeah.
Many countries have flag carriers operated independently.
Exactly.
They've at least got to take on a strategic equity partner. How much pressure does that bring to bear if an Etihad or an Emirates or an Ethiopian or a Kenyan even, which has had a patchy record, but they run decent airlines, comes in and partners with SAA? How does that up the ante for you?
I think the first question would be, why would someone want to come in and partner with SAA? If you look at it today, Emirates is the largest international carrier of people in and out of South Africa. So they hold about 23% of the international capacity. SAA flies 17% of international capacity. So why would they want to partner with SAA? They can do the business themselves.
They'd be better off letting it drive itself into the ground.
Exactly.
And you'd be better off without a national competitor. Would we as South Africans be better off without SAA plying routes in this country?
Probably, because it actually drives up the cost of the industry by having an operator that's operating inefficiently all the time. So the carriers that are remaining have this constant risk of not being able to raise airfares, because you've got a competitor that's actually undercut, that's able to run at a loss. And consequently, as airlines go out of business in South Africa, it actually creates an increasing cost base for the likes of the infrastructure providers. So AXA now almost has to build in a buffer for loss of revenue. Air traffic control has to build in a buffer. Everyone has to build in this profit buffer, because they might lose the business that's sitting in one of the other carriers at any point in time. And ultimately, we all end up paying more. So that instability in the industry just creates an additional level of cost. The leasing companies leasing to South Africa build in a risk buffer. The financing companies build in a risk buffer for South African aviation. So everyone's paying the price of an unstable industry. And they see the risk of an unstable industry because we've got a very big airline that can operate without liquidity or without insolvency or bankruptcy risk.
Erik Venter, thank you very much indeed. From the flight simulator for the Boeing 737-400, very old technology, I'm going to leave now, and if I never see you again, it's been wonderful bringing you Taking Stock. Goodbye. I hope not. Good night. That's live. Has anybody in the cabin thrown up yet, or is this quite smooth?